Hello my little springtime apples and welcome to another trophy ranking video. Today I want to share with you my top 10 picks for the 10 worst grind trophies in gaming, both in multiplayer and single player games. My only criteria, they have to be from games I've played myself or games my friends have struggled with and told me about to the point of feeling familiar enough with them myself to discuss them at length here. As mentioned in my last trophy ranking, I've seen a lot of lists that just tend to impassionately copy paste from one another, generically spouting descriptions from games they've never even played. Consequently, my list is limited only to games I've played myself, so if you check this list and see it's missing a trophy you think should be there, it's probably because it's a game I've not played, so let me know your own choices for the worst grind trophies in gaming in the comments below. And if you enjoy this video, subscribe to me here on YouTube for more gaming content. I write all sorts of reviews and rankings and try to post as often as I can, so if that's something you'd be interested in, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another one. I also stream on Twitch most days at 7 PM UK time, so if you'd like to see me get these trophies in real time, pop over there and drop me a follow for some solid trophy hunting streams. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get on to the ranking, and before I begin, worry not. This ranking contains no spoilers for any of the games mentioned beyond the spoilers that the trophy description contains, because one of them does kind of spoil its own ending in a way, but it's in the trophy description. For long-time viewers of my channel, both on Twitch and YouTube, you'll probably be aware that Dead by Daylight came into my life, grabbed me by the balls and refused to let go. The amount of times I'd play a couple of games after a stream to wind down a bit before bed and suddenly see it was 5 AM. Well, it's happened more than I'd like to admit and often several days in a row. One absolute road bump on my journey to the Dead by Daylight 100%, however, was the trophy titled Skilled Huntress from the Lullaby for the Dark DLC. Said DLC introduced the titular huntress Anya, the splicer-looking feral Russian with a penchant for murder and a weird understanding of motherhood. This trophy requires you to down 100 survivors from 30 meters away or more with the hatchets the Huntress can throw. This is an absurdly situational trophy. You see, the Huntress is a really fun killer to play. She's great, specifically built to counter pallet dropping, which previously had been the bane of killers. She's a very fun, long-range killer with a great design and tons of adorable skins to pick from. I spent a while playing as her, but that wasn't nearly enough. I don't think I even managed one of the required 100 throws. Considering all the factors here, all survivors have 2 health states, 30 meters is a huge distance to land a shot across, especially aiming on console, survivors can step aside even if you throw an accurate shot, it requires a survivor to be at 1 HP, you need to be 100% accurate accounting for movement and distance, the survivor must not see your throw and not move out of the way, it's absurd, and nearly impossible to achieve naturally, to the point where the PC and Xbox trophy lists had it edited to require only 20 hits from a distance. Like the Forgotten Middle Child, PSN's list stayed the same, demanding a dirty 100. I'm all for grind, lots of killers have grindy trophies that take time and effort, but this is beyond grind. It requires so much luck to pull off. For me, I put the method of PSN communication to the test. I'd hop into a lobby, check who was on PSN, and then message them asking if I could fire shots at them from a distance. The Dead by Daylight community are luckily very obliging, and I was never turned down, but still it was a huge stress to be reaching out to strangers and asking them for a favor. It took a day or so even with specific help, and I would not recommend it to anyone. Whose idea was this? So, I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about this one, which I will get to, believe me, but the crux of this trophy is that it requires you to trade a total of 1,000 emeralds with villagers, a common friendly spawn in Minecraft. There are many different kinds of villager and many different kinds of professions each villager could take on. Each profession therefore has different things they'll trade with and trade for. For example, cartographers ask for things like paper and farmers ask for things like carrots, in return for a small but varying amount of emeralds. Luckily, when this trophy arrived on the scene, I had a single villager that I'd found roaming as a zombie and adopted, living happily by my house in his own little hut. He was a little farmer, tilling at his fields, living his best life, but he wasn't enough. If I was to use just him, I would be grinding away at this trophy for weeks, so I needed more villagers. I made a bunch of potions and golden apples and ventured out into the night. Every night I'd check the area around my house over and over until finally I found a second zombie villager over in the forest nearby. One cure and a hastily constructed bed later, and he moved into a cozy little chalet next to my first. Still not enough, so I bred them together. Again and again, building little flats and buildings full of beds, crafting workspace after workspace. Children popped into existence, grew, and dropped into their new profession. A village built on incest. Every member probably with a 4-year life expectancy. Eventually a busload of villagers, each squirreling away at their jobs, loving life, clubfoot, and barely functional. A screaming, twisted village of sick, inbred fucks, all with lovely stock to barter for. I could finally begin the process. Time to trade. I decided to focus on a few different goods to mass produce and then sell. Carrots, potatoes, sugarcane to make paper with, coal, iron ingots, raw chicken, and pork chop, glass panes, wheat, beetroot, pumpkin, melon. All of these could be easily churned out en masse and just pumped into a village full of grunting hillbillies. And so I did for 3 full days. I'd go out into my farms, harvest everything I could find, stacks and stacks of items, and then I would ferry them back to the village and sell them for a pittance of emeralds every time. Easily 20 hours of work, maybe 30. Hours and hours and hours of effort for this trophy to pop. Stacks of emeralds slowly accumulated. And then I found out that trophy hunters had made specific realms just to farm for this trophy, using a glitch that allowed them to swap between creation mode and survival. And so many people had just gotten it in a tiny span of time with no effort. No inbred villagers, no forced labor, no mass-produced carrots, no battery-farmed chickens. It took them minutes to earn the trophy that took me days. I know that my grind was probably the more rewarding one, but I honestly would rather have just saved 20 hours. The first thing to note about this trophy is that survive is a very generous term. Upon completing any playthrough of the forest in survival mode, you unlock a casual mode that allows you to explore the world without hunger, thirst, or enemies. You can essentially stand still forever and your character will be fine. And that's how you approach this trophy. You slap a rubber band around one of the analog sticks to keep your character turning on the spot and wait for 2 or 3 real life days. That's it. Yeah, you can just play survival mode for weeks and go for this legit whilst enjoying the game, and I did, or at least I tried to. In survival mode I got to day 33, which is no small feat, just building my own little hut out on a tiny speck of dirt off the southern end of the island, but after a while I ran out of things to do and I just thought I'd get it over with. So there are 2 things of note about this trophy. The first is that it is a PlayStation destroyer, despite the fact that I only grinded this trophy overnight and turned the PlayStation off during the day, so 12 hours at a time at most. My console has never been the same since. Now, if a game is taking a little too much processing power, it will quit to the XMB for a moment, almost as though it's tripped and fallen on its face. The fans now whir like helicopter blades, and it seems to struggle so much more with the most simple tasks. And don't get me wrong, that's not even a complaint. Like, I'm impressed. What an impact this one trophy has had on my life. To age my console by 15 years over the course of 72 hours. That is beautiful. The second thing is that time in the save file and time in-game is calculated differently. A hilarious phenomenon where time moves fast according to the save file. It took almost 110 days according to the save file to hit 100 days in-game, according to my in-game survival book. I remember waking up one morning and going into my office to check the progress and having a panic when I saw that the save file read 106 days, but the trophy hadn't popped. A quick Google search reassured me that this weird time mismatch is completely normal. Honestly, it was a brilliant game. Full price for an alpha build that ran like shit, bugged to hell, and was crammed full of copy-paste assets that turned my PlayStation into a cereal box with dreams. It has genuinely been one of the best games I've played all year, no lie. For all its faults, I adored it. Bring on the sequel. I can't wait to play it. I did this trophy so recently that I actually got a tickle of PTSD just writing this down, but No Homo Est is a trophy in Dying Light that requires you to save 15 survivors from Rice's men. These events are random events with a set percentage chance to spawn. As the story goes on, these spawns become less and less likely to appear, and once the story is complete, there are 2 set spawn locations for it in Old Town, the second map in the game, and they are crazy rare, even on that basis. I'm talking like a 1 in 20 reload chance to find them, hours of running back and forth. I tried a little bit with this method, attempting to get it to spawn, but eventually gave up and went with a method I've seen posted on YouTube by a user called Philmosh, which involves starting a fresh save from the quest Meeting with Rice, running through the first 10 minutes of the mission until you have a phone call with the GRE, then running to a confirmed 100% random event spawn and seeing if you get the right one. There will always be a random event spawn here, but there's probably a 7 out of 10 chance that it'll be a survivor versus zombie spawn, maybe a 9 out of 10 chance. On the occasional chance that it does spawn Rice's men, you can kill them and add it to the tally. But this still wasn't super quick. I think I averaged one Rice's men random spawn every hour or two, meaning that it still took about 20 hours to get this trophy. I think I might have just had the worst luck ever. I saw loads of people in the comments get really lucky with spawns and have the trophy within 4 hours, but for me it was easily quadruple that time. Still, it was reassuring to know that I would at least get one random event whenever I entered the area, and I eventually had the trophy. It was a stupid pain though. Just load the game, play the first half of a single quest, run to an event location, check if it's the right one, rinse and repeat. It only took 15 minutes at most per run, and yet it was 20 plus hours before I had the trophy, so God knows how many attempts I made in the end. It was a silly amount of grind for a trophy so badly reliant on RNG and an otherwise really enjoyable platinum. Battlefield Hardline was a game released back in 2015 for the PlayStation 3, 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC. The key terms here being PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, meaning this game was old enough to straddle 2 generations, and obscure enough to vanish from the public eye within about a week. The platinum was on the south side of 40 hours, 4 out of 10 difficulty, with a tickle of multiplayer trophies for a mode that was neither remembered nor celebrated, trying too hard to be a Call of Duty clone to have its own identity, and died just as soon as it was flung out of the womb into a screaming jelly-covered mess. And when the folks over at EA saw that the player base was dwindling, they went for the only logical approach they could find, the nuclear approach. They added a free DLC with 4 crippling new trophies. Get 10,000 kills as each of the 4 online roles, 40,000 non-vehicle kills at minimum, knowing that it would drag at least some of the player base back, absolutely kicking and screaming. Only it brought them back kicking and screaming to a dead multiplayer, the only other players being those who also felt some obligation to return and chip away at their respective kill trophies, and many gave up along the way, leaving a tiny pool of desperate tryhards to collect what kills they could alongside absolute fragments of their sanity. 40,000 kills is no joke, requiring about 400 hours of work at the very least to finally cement this 100%. And then they added 3 or 4 more DLC packs, one of which requiring a climb to level 150. A joke auto-pop to those who'd collected these 10k kill trophies already, being that they would have passed level 150 around the 20,000 kill mark, and an absolute pain in the arse for anyone who hadn't made that effort yet, being that now they may as well go for 10k in each class just to make the level 150 trophy worthwhile. All in all, you can't please everyone, and if you're EA, you shouldn't even try. This entry will seem a whole lot different to the other trophies in the list, but I promise it's just as grueling, or at least just as pointlessly grueling. Cat's Lateral Damage was released on the 7th of October back in the year of our Lord 2020, and essentially involves you role-playing a cat in a weird polygon world, your only goal being to knock things onto the floor. I believe it can be played in VR, I mean either way it looks like it should be played in VR, but I cracked out this bad boy on my controller because I'm too poor for VR. Also, maybe I'd feel like I was getting into the roleplay a little bit too much if I had a VR headset on, like some gateway drug to furry porn. A slippery slope, I'm sure. Anyway, the Ultra Mess Maker trophy is likely the final trophy you'll earn in this game, being that it requires you to knock down 20,000 objects. You can grind this alongside trophies like Cataclysm and Photo Hoarder, which ask that you complete 50 levels in objective mode and collect 200 photos respectively, but this will be the bulk of your playtime, and probably your grind, depending on how many objects you finish all the other trophies with. It's not the worst grind you'll ever do, being that you'll likely finish this game within 8 to 11 hours, and you can min-max your object swiping in the grocery store map if you're feeling particularly try-hard, but it is really fucking boring. Like, even with a podcast on and 10 of Santa's elves sucking each individual toe in your feet, you'll probably be checking the time a lot. For a game that basically allows you to meow and nap as an idle animation, it really overestimates its playability. We measure our worth through internet points, and we can do that anyway. Longtime fans of the channel, or I suppose even random bystanders by this point, since I never stopped fucking talking about it, would know that I love Remnant from the Ashes. Developed by Gunfire Games, this absolute dumpster fire waded into my life and I fell in love hard. It has a brilliant premise and incredible bosses. Just a shame it functions about as well as the robots I used to make out of old cereal boxes and bits of toilet roll tube. Which is why it was absolutely perfect as a roguelike survival mode. When the survival mode DLC released, I was right on it. The new trophies were both simple and compelling, like a drunk shag, requiring players to kill 10 bosses in a row without dying, kill the new Iskall Queen boss, and purchase 40 armor skins from the new vendor, Whispers. Myself and 2 friends absolutely powered through the 10 boss streak. It was brilliant, requiring absolutely flawless teamwork, intimate build knowledge, resource management, quick thinking, and an understanding of each boss so deep that I will pass it on to my children through my DNA alone. Seriously, it is the truest test of friendship and respect. If you ever want to test your marriage, this is one that I recommend. When we finally finished the 10 boss streak, absolutely shouting and crying with excitement, I refreshed my PSN profile and realized I was missing one trophy. Fashion is danger, i.e. purchase 40 armor skins. Time to quickly go do that, you reckon? Well, maybe not. This new DLC added a currency called Glowing Fragments. Nice name. I take it that Crinkled Dollar was taken, but whatever. And helmets alone individually cost 10 of these. Body armor is 25 glowing fragments and leg armor is 15. There were 16 armor sets, so this required you to buy almost every skin in the game. 16 helmets would be 160 glowing fragments, 16 leg armor pieces, 240 glowing fragments, and 13 body armor pieces for 325, totaling 45 armor skins. So 725 glowing fragments. And how many fragments do you earn for killing a boss in survival mode? 1. Stronger enemies in the overworld might drop one here and there, but in the worst case scenario, you're looking to farm bosses 725 times for this trophy, with a single run taking you at best about 10 minutes from start to boss victory. This is at the worst an extra 120 hours in your game. Some runs will net you several more, significantly lowering the required time, but sometimes you just get unlucky. You can farm them by playing the main game on hard mode and above, but it's easier to do it through survival mode and just as fun. Hey, at least it's good practice for the 10 boss streak, eh? Borderlands, a name with the same renown as titles like FIFA, Skyrim, and Pokemon, known even to people who don't really even play games. One of the greats, an absolute poster child of gaming. Seriously, back when I was a bitch for Nintendo games, I even knew that iconic gas mask, that brilliant cel-shaded art style. Sure, I didn't know what the game looked like, how it played, or whether it was even fun, but I knew it and that's all that matters. So when I finally picked it up for the PlayStation 3 about a decade after it was released, I was really happy to see it lived up to expectations. I particularly loved that each DLC focused on highlighting big contemporary genres of gaming. Dr. Zed's was a zombie DLC, naturally. The Underdome was your classic wave-based challenge, Nox's Armory was all about driving, and Claptrap's Robo Revolution, weirdly, shoot and loot raid boss. Well, more so a shoot and loot raid boss than the main game itself. You see, this DLC introduced drops. Throughout the game, you would encounter various hostile Claptraps who would attack you and potentially drop some very rare items that you can collect. Pizza slices, panties, oil cans, all ultra rare drops from these Claptraps, and absolutely vital that you begin collecting them from the moment you step foot in the game. Why? Because even after dutifully collecting every single drop you can find, you will probably barely be halfway by the time you finish the story, and then the item grind begins. During the final boss fight against the Super Ninja Assassin Claptrap, there is a rock. Behind that rock, there is a safe space that you can sit, unaffected by the kamikaze Claptraps that will wheel over to you and detonate, and that is where you leave your character. Sit them down, leave the game idle for 2 hours, then get up and hop around the arena collecting all the items that the kamikaze Claptraps have dropped. Then hop back in behind the rock, rinse and repeat. It might take 4 hours, it might take 8, 10, 12. For me, 10 days passed between the first of the collect 25 of this item and the final trophy, Lubricator, which required 25 oil cans, pop, so God knows how long it took me in all. I like to think that it took the full 10 days, trapped in a Claptrap purgatory, listening to their screams as they ran at me in a futile effort to take me down with them, but it was probably more like 10 hours. Either way, silly grind, appalling spawn rates, like sex on sertraline. Call of Duty Black Ops 3's Personal Decorator trophy introduced 10 decorations that needed to be earned, taking anywhere between 40 and 80 hours depending on skill and, unfortunately, luck, as it's also bugged to shit. If you get all 12 decorations and the trophy doesn't pop, it means it's bugged, and you have to start again, and that is the only way you can know. After doing all of that, it just simply doesn't pop, and that is how you know that it is bugged. What a way to find out. And these decorations ask a lot from you. They require you to earn all campaign weapons, attachments, and cameos, you have to fully upgrade all cyber cores, you have to unlock and purchase all weapons, lethals, tacticals, and cyber combat abilities, you need to complete the campaign on veteran, you need to complete the campaign on realistic, you need to complete every mission in the game at least once on veteran without restarting a checkpoint, you need to collect all collectibles in the campaign, you need to complete all mission accolades, you need to complete all campaign challenges, you need to earn a score of 35,000 in the training simulator, you need to neutralize 2,000 hostiles, and finally, for the decoration Full Honors, earn all other campaign decorations. We are looking at overall kills of almost 20,000 for all of the camos. You are discouraged from even trying in the first place if you can't finish the training simulator on realistic. Some missions don't count as being finished and need to be replayed over and over again until they're recognized, and many of these trophies are borderline impossible without a full team of 4 co-op players spec'd specifically for keeping each other alive. So it's the winning combination, stupid grind and insane difficulty for a trophy that might not even pop when it's all said and done. It has got to sting to unlock that final decoration after 80 hours and find that it's glitched. You do have to hand it to the CoD community. If you Google this achievement, there are reams and reams and reams of forum posts crammed full of tips, tricks, and even glitches you can exploit to get it easier. Not easily, but easier. There are boosting sessions, YouTube videos, written guides, everything you could possibly need to even attempt this is out there in droves already. Well, seems like men really can communicate when it's an issue of importance. Have you heard of the trophy Left 1004 Dead 2 from Dead Rising 4? Those of you who have played Dead Rising games before probably took one look at that number and knew exactly what it was asking. 200,008 dead zombies. Not 100k, but double that, because it's Left 4 Dead 2. Get it? Dead Rising 4 was the swan song of Capcom Vancouver, the now defunct branch of Capcom based in Vancouver, obviously, having collapsed under the horrifying, oppressive weight of Capcom Japan, who were annoyed that they did something they didn't like or something, so they stripped their jobs and livelihood from them. I forget the specifics. As the 4th installment in the beloved Dead Rising series, Dead Rising 4 was not well received. In a series not only known for its bugs, but somehow beloved for them, Dead Rising 4 had far too many bugs. It retconned characters, killed them off in ways unbefitting their lives and legacies, and took a big old shitty on the series up to that point. Yeah, the developers were put into a lose-lose situation and tanked as a result, so you can't blame them at all, but factually, the game is bad, including, somehow, the 200k zombie kills trophy. You see, zombie kill trophies aren't a new phenomenon in the Dead Rising series. Dead Rising 1 had Zombie Genocider, which required you to kill 53,594 zombies. Dead Rising 2 had Zombie Genocide Master, which humbly requested 72,000 zombies killed. Dead Rising 2 off the record had 6 digits, which asked for 100,000 exactly, but could be exploited and done super fast with a weird glitch involving bees. I didn't bother to check for Dead Rising 3 because it's an Xbox game and God knows what savage garden of achievements got plugged in there, but still, nothing came even halfway close to Left 100,004 Dead 2, except Working Hard, a trophy that requires you to kill a square 250,000 zombies as part of the game's trials, similar to the strategy in Dead Rising 2 that required you to grab an SUV and go to town on all the zombies in the main park over the course of about 8 hours, in a move that could be described as needless. Dead Rising 4 requires you to craft the sling rod out of 2 cars and also go ham, driving around the same block of buildings over and over and over again for hours. Capcom Vancouver well and truly left their mark on gaming and my psyche. So there you have it, my top 10 picks for the worst grinds in gaming. Doubtlessly, you'll have experienced some dogshit games of your own, so please tell me all about those in the comments and I'll be sure to take them on too so I don't feel left out. I love trophy hunting and I'm always intrigued by an absolute dickhead trophy, so honestly don't even feel bad about suggesting them either. We can get through it together. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to me here on YouTube, and even share it if you think it's something worth sharing. I'm almost at 100 subscribers here and it would mean the absolute world to me to hit that milestone sometime soon. Moreover, feel free to hop over to my Twitch channel linked in the description below if you want to watch me grind these suckers live most nights at 7 PM UK time. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, you're a saint, and I truly wish you all the cheer I'm allowed to allot to one person. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you again.